a lot of the principles, if you read $100 million offers, will apply to e-commerce. It's all hats, right?
No,
People
no
still like the
strips.
hats.
No strips.
No
you know?
strips, exactly. Honestly, you could make a lot of products work. You can make a simple t-shirt work, even a simple dropshipping product like the really important to close your feedback loops. I speak to a lot of brand owners. If I ask them, why did you think your ads didn't do well last month? They can't really give me a solid answer. From 5K per day to 50K per day in 1 month, all I told him was just, hey, stop spam testing, spend more time doing your research with more intent, you scale up this way.
Yeah, that's massive. That's just marketing one-on-one in just a few minutes. I don't know if you got that, guys, but like... What's good, everybody? I'm extremely happy to have Shaun on the channel today. He's a special guest, and a lot of people are flexing how they're doing 100K months. This guy right here is doing 100K per day for the brand that he's helping to grow. So yeah, thank you so much, Shaun, for being on the channel. Can you give us a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, my friend. Yeah, so for us, we help 7 to 9 figure brands scale with Facebook ads, creatives, and CRO. I've been doing ecom for like almost 4 years now, since 2020, since COVID. We've scaled brands to 100K per day, and I've helped a few friends of mine scale their own brands to 100K per day as well.
So right now you're focusing on big brands that are already at the 7-figure level, but one question comes to mind. What's the difference between a 100K per month brand and a 100K per day brand?
Good question. So what I would say is for you to get to 0 to 100K per month, a lot of it is just volume, right? Let me give you a better example. You see a lot of people drop shipping to start, for example. A lot of them, even if they, let's say they rip content, right? They take content from other people, you can get to 100K per month. It's a lot of just a volume game. If you put in enough volume, you'll get there. If you get to 100K per month to, let's say, $1 million per month, the game changes a bit. Because when you put in more volume, what happens is you get a lot of junk volume out, and that doesn't really translate to, scaling your brand. So the advice I give to most people, scaling your brand to 100K per month to $1 million per month is more about having a lot more intent. If you keep spamming what you're doing now, you might be able to scale, but you won't get you to where you are. You will get stuck in the company I've seen. So just having more intent to whatever you're doing. Let's say, for example, if it's towards your ads, instead of spamming, if you actually spend more time doing more research, you're able to get to where you want much faster. Because at the end of the day, the brands that scale the furthest are the brands that understand their customers the most. So that's what I would say.
And I guess not every single product can be scaled to such numbers, right? What do you think is the top 3 most important traits of a brand that can scale to 100K per day and beyond?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of people might say, okay, you need to have a problem-solving product and whatnot. But I think most of the biggest brands we've scaled haven't really been a problem-solving product.
Really?
The game has changed a lot, right? Yeah. The game has changed a lot, right? For example, some of our biggest brands, they sell fashion. And fashion, there's not much problem outright, right? Then you see a lot of new brands come out. Like, let's say, what is it? One of the Kardashians came out with a brand, and then she's, I think she's the youngest billionaire or something, because she has a big personal brand, right? So not necessarily your product needs to be really good, but you need to be really good at one, knowing who your customers are. Let's say people who start a personal brand, they already know who their customers are, so they are able to get a product that speaks right to their customers. So I would say less about the product, it's more about how well you can understand your customer. If you have a really good brand, if let's say Alex Hormozi were to sell, what's a random thing? He sold hats, right? People
No
still
strips.
like the hats.
No strips.
No strips, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's less about the product actually, because honestly, you could make a lot of products work. You can make a simple t-shirt work, even a simple dropshipping product like the astronaut projector as well. Have you seen that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think.
And if you think about True
it's
Classic,
saturated.
they're a 9-figure brand, right? And they're just selling plain t-shirts.
Exactly. So for me, it's less so about the product, more so how you can spin wheels around it.
So it's not that much about the strategies to find the next like trendiest thing or whatever. It's more about like strategies to nail down the fundamentals, right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as the niche you're in isn't dying. If you were selling like newspaper now, doesn't make sense. If let's say simple things, fitness or whatever, things that are just always there, you wouldn't have any issue.
But I guess there are niches that are easier to nail down than others, right? What are your like top picks? Which niches do you absolutely love selling? And on the quite opposite, what are the niches that you absolutely hate selling in?
Yeah, great question. not really a niche, but what I found, at least for us, if you're running paid ads, the easiest way to scale is if you target anything towards moms. Can be, so let's say healthcare product, it can be clothing,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. If you target moms, it's the easiest to scale. What I found as well is LTV for them is much, much higher. It makes sense. They're only on Facebook and
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. So whatever towards moms will be great. That's the easiest one. Hardest one, let me think. I think the hardest one might be tech stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
One of the nine-figure brands we work with, they sort of sell tech stuff as well. They did very well. But unless you have very big capitals, you're competing against a lot of big players. So it's really hard to make it work unless you have really good R&D.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the customer sophistication level is different, right? Because tech people are very well informed. So direct response marketing can be a little bit tougher to nail down, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like especially for tech, a lot of tech brands come from China, right? Everything is made in China. The thing with
Mm-hmm.
China's business is it's extremely cutthroat. Let me give you an example. One of my cousin runs a factory here where I'm from in Malaysia. So
Mm-hmm.
the story he told me is a lot of China billionaires that are coming out of China, right? They're coming in
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia. How they would steal their employees? They send someone right in front of his own factory. All the employees that come in, he goes in offer whatever he's paying you, I'll pay you double. Come work for me. So in those type of environments, it's very hard to compete against.
I get it. I get it. So you gotta always have a competitive advantage, right? And you
Mm.
mentioned that the competitive advantage of such brand of such caliber that can scale to consistent six-figure days is knowing your customer, and that sounds very vague to most people. So, what does that actually mean? What does knowing your customer mean in practice, and what's the process behind getting to know your customer?
Yeah, good question. So imagine this. Imagine you just came out of the shower and then you saw an ad on your phone. Then the ad says, just came out of the shower, maybe you need this. So if you
Hmm.
understand your customers that well, they'll think to themselves, it's like, how the hell did you know this? That's the level of depth that your marketing needs to be. And in order to get to that level of marketing, it's a lot of manual research, right? So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things you can do for research, right? For us ourselves, we have about 25 steps. You go through your Reddit, you go through your Amazon, your YouTube, your TikTok, whatever. It's most importantly is knowing how your customers think, how they comment, what type of content they like to see. So one of my favorite methods, at least, is if you just go on like YouTube or TikTok, for example, you want to see what type of content they like to watch. You want to go through the comments. How do they like to comment? How do they speak? If you can speak their same language as well, and you can create content that they want to see, that's the recipe for a great brand. Like even for one of my friends, he was struggling selling. I think he was selling shapewear, so until
Mm-hmm.
he sort of shifted his language on the ads towards more girly language like slay or whatever it is, his ads
Mm-hmm.
managed to do much better. So that's the depth you need.
So just to repeat, you have a 25-step process of doing research for your customer, right? What would I know you have a lot of you've invested quite a lot of effort behind it. So I don't want you to disguise the whole thing, but what are the top strategies you would recommend people like us who are brand owners doing at least like 20, 30, 50K per month in order to get to know our customers better? Because what I've
Yep.
seen with myself is that I think that I know my customer. I've been scaling ads for a while. I think I'm doing good, but it makes you a little bit complacent, right? Because I got to a specific point, but in order to scale to a whole new level, I might need a completely redefined customer profile. So how do we overcome this?
That's a big issue that I might have sometimes as well. Sometimes we are just, even for the brands we work with, you're too involved in the day to day that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need an outside perspective. But one thing that's really good that we do as well is we do a customer feedback. So how we do this is we just send out an email. Maybe it's like a giveaway, for example. If you answer these questions, you get a chance to win. This way, you actually get your customers' own feedback on what they say. What did they purchase from us? What did they think is good, what not? This information is very helpful, not just because you see it on paper. There's a lot of things you can do with it, right? You can plug it into ChatGPT, for example,
Mm-hmm.
train models based off it, so you can get prompts that are specifically tailored to your customers. That's one really good one you can use for your research. But besides that, it's just how can you sort of zoom out from the picture. For us as well, sometimes for me, it's helpful. Okay, if I have someone else take a look at what I'm doing. When I take a look at other brands, it's easy for me to help them scale. Let's say my friends ask me for advice. When I look at my own ones, my own clients, you're so involved in the day to day, it's very hard. So
Yeah.
having a good network of people you trust as well that you can help you give feedback, I think is also very very important. But I think these two, so far from me, are the biggest tips.
And you mentioned that you're doing quite a lot of manual research, which I believe is quite controversial given how much people are pushing AI and saying how great it is. So, what's your take on AI in doing research? What role does it play? You mentioned that you're doing some stuff with ChatGPT. Um, I'm wondering, are you using it for more advanced things? Because what I see with myself again is sometimes I'm relying on ChatGPT to do my whole research, which is stupid, right? I don't want to leave everything to ChatGPT, and that's something that I've seen, clients doing. They just leave blank copy on ChatGPT. So I know that you've stumbled upon those issues as well. So I'm wondering, what's your take on that?
Yeah. What I will say is the research works more on you than you work on it. It's not about, okay, you have all this information out in this document, you did your research or whatever. It's about after doing the research, how much do you know about your customer? How many type of new ideas can you get? So what I found as well is one of my students, he actually used like a AI prompts to do all the research for him, but he couldn't really scale, although he knew what he needed to get. It's because he didn't do it himself. It's not about, as I said, having it on paper. It's about who you become after the research. Yes, we still leverage some AI tools. For example, there's some AI tools. For one, it's called Shulix. What it is it just helps you like compile all the Amazon reviews. So things like that help us just simplify whatever we are doing. But the research still needs to be manual.
So it's more so about the understanding of the niche that you receive as a result of your research, no matter what the technique is, right?
Yeah.
So how do we avoid becoming complacent as a result of using AI? What did your student, for example, have to do in order to get to that level of depth?
In order to get there, I mean, it's hard to say it, but it's a lot of just you need to put in the manual work. It sucks, man. Some people like it, but today I do it all the time. It's like going through Reddit reviews for people, like looking what old people are watching on their phones is not the most interesting thing, but it's something that you just need to push forward with. One of my good friends, his name is Zachariah. He does about 100K per day with Facebook ads only, about a 6 to 10x return on ad spend. Crazy stuff.
Crazy.
All he does morning to night, he does the research, right? He sells health products. He even goes reading like health reports, lab reports. So any statistics he wants in his ads, he can pull out of his ass. That's the level of depth that he gets in order to do 100K per day with only Facebook ads. So if you ask me for advice, I'm just gonna tell you, no matter what it is, it's manual. You have to do it yourself. That's all.
And no one is urging you to do it, right? Like it's not urgent work. It's not something that, for example, ads are not performing. You have to switch them off. Like it's not like things are going down, but it's a thing that will push you to the next level, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Some people think, okay, I do my customer research. I did it once. I understand my customers. I struggle to scale, but chances are you're struggling to scale to the next level because you don't understand your customers as well as you think you are. It's hard reality. At that point, I've seen a lot of people. They tell me they do the customer research. They hit a wall, then they look at other things, right? They look at, okay, let me try this weird strategy, burger strategy or whatever it is. But honestly, to help you scale, it's a lot of just the basic stuff, doing a lot more of it.
So how do you know that you know your customer pretty well? Aside from obviously looking at the ROAS, you nail down a specific ad. Okay, that's good. But how do you know that you consistently put out ad creatives and ad copies that really resonate with your customer? And how do you track your progress in this whole thing?
Good question. So the way we track it is for all our creatives, we put it out in a sheet. We call it the growth guide. So each ad concept in there is all listed down in this growth guide. So for each ad idea, I have my team think out because I need each ad to be high intent, not just some random ad. They saw a cool brand run or whatever. They need to write, okay, why do I think this is gonna do well? What is my research behind it? More marketing fundamentals, right? What are the desires? Who's my persona? What's the benefit? Having it all tracked down is very important. And most importantly, after that as well, is just having your learnings. Did this ad do good? Did it do bad? Most importantly, it's why, right? So it's really important to close your feedback loops. I speak to a lot of brand owners. If I ask them, why did you think your ads didn't do well last month? They can't really give me a solid answer. So just making sure that each ad you have, you track down why you think it's did well or why it didn't do well. This way, you can actually stop making the same mistakes you've been making over and over again. And all the marketing fundamentals you have inside there, right? It's variables you can test. Let's say you found out in this first concept, this desire is doing the best. Okay, move it to the next ad. Same desire, different benefits or whatnot. So this way, it's you test this style of variables. Eventually, you'll get to a point where your ads are hitting. That's when you know that you understand your customers enough, but it's not to a point where you understand your customers maxed out already, right? There's always more things you can understand, different personas and whatnot.
So to summarize, you make assumptions and you test like entirely new concepts, but based on previous research and previous learnings, right?
Yep.
What I found with myself and running my brand is that you have the common business advice: double down on what's working.
Yeah.
You know, take what's working, make it even better. But when you focus on that one concept that worked in the beginning, and you make all those iterations, I start to see diminishing returns over time. And I think it's a widely discussed topic on what percentage of the ad spend should go towards new concept testing versus how much of it should go towards minor iterations of what's already working. What do you think is a good split?
As for the split for that, it's hard for me to give you a split because we've changed the way that we have tested our creatives as well. Most people who ask that, it's because you have separate testing and separate scaling campaign, but we sort of merged that together already. Maybe I can speak about that a bit more later. In terms
Absolutely.
of iterations and whatnot. So let's say if first of all, you have a winning concept, of course you want to iterate on it and you will have diminishing returns. So what I like to say is, okay, it's 3 strikes are out, right? You do 3 iterations of it. Eventually, if all 3 of them flop, then it's okay. You could move on to a next concept, still take the learnings from it, then make a new concept. If let's say you're really bullish on an ad concept, same thing as well. First one doesn't work, it's okay. But based on all your research, you think that it really is worthwhile. Maybe your execution was just wrong. It's 3 strikes are out. Third time you try it, doesn't work still, it's okay, you can move on to the next one.
And when it comes to nailing down creatives, some people are arguing that the content itself, so like the visual part, is the highest leverage thing. And other people are saying, no, it's the script, it's the copywriting, it's, you know, it's the ad copy or whatever. And obviously, both aspects have a huge importance for an ad. So for you and your clients and from your experience, what are the highest leverage activities alongside research to nail down a 10 out of 10 creative?
As for what you said about creatives and copywriting, so what I found as well is a lot of our best ads that helped us scale to 100K per day have been very simple images with a very good headline. Because if you understand your customers well enough, that's all it takes, right? And a lot of good visuals, good video ads, or whatever, also comes down to good copywriting. You need to have good copy first, not say copy, but just understanding of your customer, which will determine your copy. If you know what's going to go on the ad already, to pair visuals with it is super simple. A lot of people will say, okay, if I just have like super eye-catching hooks or whatever, that will make my ad pop off. But if your messaging, your understanding of customer there is still flawed, it won't do as much. So for me, it's more emphasis on the copywriting side of things. And can you remind me what you said the last part again?
Yeah, of course. It's pretty much like what are the top priorities? And I think you've pretty much answered it pretty well. That messaging and like it's not just about the line of copy or the specific words. It's about the overarching messaging that you have in your ads, right? Which is also projected through the visuals, right? But like you have to think of it in advance. That's how I like to kind of say it, at least in my content. So to put things into even more perspective, what is your hierarchy of testing when it comes to scaling an ad account, specifically for creatives, so that you ensure that every new concept that you test has the highest probability of success and discovering an untapped segment that can be scaled hard and not just to additional like 1K in ad spend per day?
Yep. So the first thing we like to do is we like to test with an image ad. The point of it is we're going to be testing a lot of different headlines to figure out what desire is resonating with customers the most first. Are they purchasing this product for themselves, for their kids, or whatever it is? Once you know what is the core desire, it's much easier to go from there, right? There's a lot of things you can do. Once you know the desire, okay, maybe if the ad concept was doing well, for example, you can iterate on the concept. For example, if it was an image ad that did well, you know this is the best performing desires. Maybe instead of an image ad, you put it into a video ad, for example. But first things first is actually figuring out the desire. Based on your research, you should know who the persona roughly is already, whether it's male, age, or whatever. You have the desires, you have the persona. After that, testing different concepts around it, different benefits. So this way, eventually, you'll nail down the desires, the personas, the benefits. You have a rough idea of what works. Then you can do a lot of iterations, as I said. Iterate on the concept, changing it different ways to show it. And then, going deeper into it, you find different angles. Hopefully that makes sense.
That's a very interesting strategy. So you're pretty much testing the waters with image ads. It's like your discovery stage, and then you refine the whole thing mostly through video ads, or you're also scaling with the image ads that you started off with.
It'll be both. You'll test it out. Yeah.
Interesting. So I think now is a very good moment to get into the media buying side of things, and you guys' strategy is quite different than what most people are doing in the space. How big of an impact do you think media buying has overall in scaling an ad account? And what is your kind of philosophy behind media buying in general?
Media buying, although people might shit on it nowadays, I will state that it still has some impact, although not as much impact as other things like your creative and whatnot. For us, for example, our media buying is very, very simplified. We mainly just have 1 to 3 campaigns. So we do our creative and testing all in one campaign. So the philosophy behind that is, okay, let's say you have an ad set inside there that is what we call it, your champion ads. It's just your best ads, but then you'll test other ads against it. So think of it this way. Imagine you're playing an arcade game, right? There's a leaderboard. There's a number 1 over there. That's your champion ads. Each ad you want to create competes against that. You want to dethrone your champion ads. It's a bit like playing a game. So some people might have objections to that as well. They say, okay, this ad already has so much spend, it already has so much engagement. There's no way a new ad can outperform it. But time and time again, we've ran this strategy for almost 2 years now. It's not what we've seen. If you have a really good ad, it will suck up more spend and it will outperform your current champions. And the beauty of it since this strategy is very simplified and there's not much audience targeting or whatever to it. We just run broad, which is just age and gender. When you have a winning ad, you can scale up a lot. Maybe you can double or 3x your spend at the same KPI. So assuming that your ads are really, really good, just hit bangers over bangers, which isn't always the case, but could happen if, let's say, you really did your research. You can scale up really, really fast. Like one of our students as well, he scaled up to 5K, from 5K per day to 50K per day in 1 month. All I told him was just, hey, stop spam testing, spend more time doing your research with more intent. He scaled up this way. Another friend of mine as well, Chris, he was doing like 10K per day, right? He was going to pay like 15K to some mentor to teach him some bid caps and cost caps and whatnot. Yeah. I told him the only thing that's going to stop you from scaling is your offer and your creatives, not so much your media buying. I taught him how we run our ads. He did it. He went from 10K per day to 100K per day in 2 weeks. So less about media buying, it's more about the offers and creatives.
Yeah, so you mentioned something very interesting, that you're pretty much leaving it to the algorithm to decide whether an ad is good or not. And I guess you've had a lot of cases where we were very like hyped up for a specific creative that you made, right? But in the end of the day, Facebook doesn't spend towards it. What do you do in this situation? Like, do you give it another try because you really believe in it? Or
This method is very, very humbling. The beauty of it is ads that don't do well won't get spent. But imagine you spend like a week making your creative, whatever. You get custom creative, nothing sticks. It's very humbling. We have tried multiple times for spending it as well. Let's say taking it out into an ABO and then testing it. But at scale, it will never do well. So in that case, we just mainly relied on Facebook's algorithm since that is what has been working really well for us. But if it doesn't hit well, it's just like Facebook signs of telling you, okay, you know what, try again. That's why we have the 3 strikes rule, right? If based on your research, you really think this concept is really gonna do well, maybe it just wasn't executed properly, try again. First time didn't do well, second time didn't do well, third time maybe it will hit.
what is your campaign structure in a little bit more detail? I personally like to test different concepts in different campaigns. I'm still using a more diversified approach, but with so few campaigns, how do you prioritize? How do you split test different elements, different variables? How do you do that?
So the way we run it is it's mainly all in one campaign for creative testing, which will limit your creative testing. You aren't able to test as many as you want to based on the spend you have. If you're spending a lot, you can definitely test more, but that could be a good thing as well. So this way, imagine if you're only forced to test maybe like 6 batches of creatives per week. So you need to really think, okay, these 6 need to be really, really good. So of course, if you're spending more, you can start putting more volume to it. There's a big balance behind it. As for creatives as well, usually if it's for the same objective, let's say it's for purchases for the same product, the concepts in there, we will put it in the same campaign as well to test against each other. But the way we test it is we use dynamic creatives, which unfortunately Facebook is phasing out now. So we are still thinking about how to go about that. So just putting it in a dynamic creative, right? For us, we do it 3-2-2, which means 3 creatives, 2 headlines, and 2 body copy. This way, Facebook can sort of decide which combination is going to do the best. So you have the best combination. But beyond that as well, right, you can do a lot of other combinations. Let's say if I were to do an iteration and I was spending a lot more, instead of just limiting it to 3-2-2, I could maybe put in 9 creatives in, for example. But
Yeah.
this method is to get you like more creative testing. I will still push to do less and spending more time researching. And if you're not spending a lot, right, maybe you're only smaller brand, you're spending a few $100s per day, I wouldn't even worry about putting 9 creatives in a dynamic creative. Just put your regular dynamic creative tests with 3-2-2, 3 creatives, 2 headlines, 2 body copy. I would try to keep my total ad sets less than 5 inside. So including your champion ad sets, maybe you have 2 to 3 dynamic creative tests running at the same time. So it will limit you a bit, but I want you to think, how can I spend more time doing the research to put out really good ads? So that's what I would say. Hopefully that makes more sense.
So it's quality over quantity, right? But let's say I did all the research correctly, everything is doing good. I started testing creatives already. What is a realistic expectation for a brand owner to scale to 100K per day? How many good creatives does a brand owner need in order to hit those numbers consistently without those creatives dying out in a few weeks?
As for creatives dying out, I would say that that's not really much of an issue if you're targeting big markets like the US or whatever. Smaller countries, European countries, maybe you will. But creative fatigue is not something I would really worry about, especially if you're targeting broad. As for the amount of creatives needed, it's hard to give you a ballpark, right? Because each winning ad might give you different scale. Let's say one winning ad gives you can double your spend at KPI. The other one gives you 4x your spend at KPI. So it's hard to really give you an exact number to it. But all I would say is just focus on your winning ad rate is the most important thing. You don't want to just focus on putting out a certain number of creatives per week. Actually track it. out of all the creatives you tested, how many of them became winning ads? And that's your goal, right? Oftentimes, if you can't scale, it's because you haven't really hit a winning ad. Your winning ad rate is very low. Some people come up to me, they say, "Oh, I've been struggling to scale." I ask them, "Okay, when's the last time you really had an ad took off?" And it's like months ago. You know, makes sense why you can't scale. It's just about focusing on your winning ad rate that will help you really scale up. But there's no set number to it. It just really depends.
I totally agree. We've actually had image ad creatives that scaled to more than $1 million in sales for our brands, and they've been running since 3.5 years now without them completely dying off. So whenever I'm speaking to a brand owner, it's like my creatives are always dying out. I'm like, why is it that some creatives work for years and years, and other creatives die out after a couple of months? Aside from research, like what are the main, like, more technical differences, and in terms of creative production, in terms of script writing, that makes an ad, that pretty much turns an ad from a short-sighted ad to an evergreen ad?
I think if your ad is really good, regardless, it will be an evergreen ad if you understood your customer well enough. Oftentimes, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
They say the ad doesn't work for them anymore. It's because the ad only gave them a certain level of scale. It only helped them get to 10K per month. But to get to, let's say, 100K per month, they need a different ad with a different understanding of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I oftentimes see as well when they say my creatives aren't really working out. It's because when they try to scale further, they are still relying on that one ad. They need another ad that will outspend it because they understand the customer well enough. So those type of ads are ads that will become evergreen ads instead of just ads that maybe, okay, it depends how you determine your winning ads, right? For us, it's an ad that will outspend all your current ads. Facebook likes it the most and it's the highest returns. It's not an ad that, let's say, it has slightly lower spend than your current winning ad and returns aren't as good, but it's similar. That's not really a winning ad. When you have a winning ad, it's something that will really just take off, skyrocket, and those are the type of ads that will become evergreen.
So is that the moment where you start, like, looking more into awareness stages, try to measure the sophistication level, how clear the messaging is? How do you like brainstorm this? There's a lot of content about marketing in general and awareness stages, and everyone tries to, like, understand this whole thing, but it's still very abstract. But you're a practitioner, and how do you do you have a gut feeling that a specific ad can be very scalable, or you have a specific research process to determine what awareness stages the audience is in, what sophistication level it's in, so that you can maximize the chance of an ad hitting the best, if that makes sense?
No, yeah, that makes sense. As far as more of the marketing fundamental stuff, the awareness stages and whatnot, as a new beginner, it might be hard to see because a lot of this comes from Breakthrough Advertising, the book, right? So if at least they watch some of my videos as well, what's helpful is I try to give people examples of ads in different awareness stages, so you actually know what they look like, and so you know what to look at for your own ads as well. And for us, it's important to actually analyze this because in the past, if I ask you, okay, your ad is a good ad because the CTR or whatever is good, and if I ask you a step further, why do you think the CTR is good? What makes the ad good? It's hard to really break it down. So just doing the science behind it, just knowing the awareness stages, the sophistication, these type of the things actually help you break down why an ad is doing well. Sometimes your desire is really good, right? Let's say if I were to sell you like a back pain product, but if I tell you, hey, this product sells back pain, at the same time, it's like everyone is selling back pain products. They've seen a million of those. They can do whatever. They can go to a field, they can get some dropship product, whatever. Why would people purchase from you if you just say, hey, this helps you with back pain? So maybe perhaps you go down the awareness stage. You'll say, okay, it's because our product is superior to the other back pain products. It does this. That's going down the market awareness funnel. Could work well also. Or if it's sophistication, right? Let's say if you were to sell clothing, everyone knows about clothing already. So unless you have a revolutionary new, let's say, material or whatever, how you're gonna stand out in a super sophisticated market is through identification marketing, right? That's why you have brands targeting towards different personas, right? Like, are you interested in, let's say, running and lifting at the same time? There's a brand for that. So these are the type of levels we'll see. So once you identify the market awareness stages and the sophistication level, you sort of know where to position your ad, because these are just tools to help you with your overall positioning. Uh, but it's you just need to do a lot of reps in, right? For us as well, studying a lot of ads, actually breaking them down, then trying to apply it to your ads and see how that does. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's massive. That's just marketing one-on-one in just a few minutes. I don't know if you got that, guys, but like that was a very, very good overview. And just something on top of my mind. Do you start with a very broad messaging and try to go down and down a level in terms of awareness, or you start with a very specific messaging and you kind of open it up over time?
Yeah. We usually don't go, let's say, very high up the market awareness stage right at the start. We might not do like a unaware VSL at the start. Perhaps we start lower first. Let's say we focus on, depending on the product, right? We start lower first to figure out what really works. Then we can scale up. Because some of our brands we've scaled to 100K per day as well. Let's say we scaled the humidifier brand. We didn't do like a very unaware market. It was still product aware. Product aware is still pretty low as well, because a lot of people already know about humidifiers in the US at least. So we don't need to convince people telling them, hey, this is why you need a humidifier. We tell people, actually, you know what? This is why ours is the best. Starting lower, I would say, that eventually going up. But you can start high up as well. It's not an issue. It just depends on your specific product. If, let's say, your product is more untapped, definitely start higher. If it's a more saturated product, start lower.
Totally. And that's a very interesting point, because I was at a mastermind event and I was showing our top performing ads, and they were, again, those images that are scaled to multiple seven figures, and people thought that they were just retargeting creatives, but they were just product aware creatives that had a huge amount of people that were ready to buy, and the ROAS was amazing. And it's very cool to see how high you can actually scale in product aware stage, or closer to the bottom, because the market is just so big, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just depends on your product, man.
Absolutely, man. I love that. And we've covered quite a lot about creatives, and I definitely believe that people on the channel will appreciate it. But you mentioned that the second part of a highly scalable brand is the offer itself. And you can look at offers in a more like overarching aspect, or in a very specific thing on how to position the price and the benefits of the product. But what's your process in developing a very good e-commerce offer?
So crafting a good offer is very highly dependent on the product. People might think that offers are just, your buy one, get one free, your volume discounts and whatnot. But offer goes a lot more behind that, right? If you ever read $100 million offers, it says, okay, it's about the desired outcome, how likely is it for the customer to achieve it, things like that. It's for the regular e-commerce brand, it's a bit hard to make out what those type of things are, although I'm trying to piece together a training for that as well. Let's say if you look at brands that run funnels, if you look at a big brand like Neuro, for example, doing $10 million per month, you take a look at their offers, right? What is the desired outcome? They make it, this desired outcome, you'll solve a lot of your issues or whatever it is. Desired outcome is there. How likely is it to achieve? They'll say it's super easy. They have support groups to help you out, whatever. So a lot of these piece out your offer instead of just your buy one, free one thing, right? It's what goes from the ad to the landing page itself. So it's a lot more complex than people think of it. It's not just buy one, free one, unfortunately. But I could get a lot deeper into it, but it might be a bit too complex as well. What I would say is a lot of the principles, if you read $100 million offers, will apply to e-commerce or to info products as well. So, yeah, this is what I would say.
Yeah, from what I've seen with working with other brands and what we did quite well with our brand is pretty much communicating the value of the offer, because like price is what they pay, value is what they get, right? So I think a lot of people are just putting those bundles out there and, trying to come up with an offer without any context. And I think providing the context to the offer and displaying the value in the eyes of the customer is ultimately what makes the offer convert, right? So that being said, offer is the highest leverage activity on the landing page side of things. What are the other CRO elements that you like to split test in your offers that give you a very high uplift?
Okay, there's a few CRO tests that usually convert very well. Of course, what I will say is you might see people post their CRO wins or whatever. What applies to their brand might not apply to yours, so always test it. So what we've been seeing as well is pre-purchase upsell funnels work very well. So what pre-purchase upsells are is, let's say people on the cart, they click initiate checkout. Before they get to the actual checkout page, you hit them with a funnel. Right? Let's say 10 minutes only, you get this product for 50% off. We've seen that work very well. Usually what take rates are around 20%. So quite a lot, and it doesn't hurt your conversion rate as much as people like to think. Besides that, if you were to do volume discounts could work very well also. Making sure that you actually justify why you have that volume discount. Okay, you buy one pack for yourself or whatever, buy 2 packs for yourself and the office or whatever. Justifying these type of things work very well also. Besides that, in general, simplifying your product page will actually increase your conversion rate a lot. If let's say we weren't running a landing page, let's say it's a product page, we've seen as well, right? Some of the brands we've scaled, the humidifier, for example, was what? The AOV is $300 to $400. And what we found is running ads to this homepage, very, very simple, which leads to a product page. And it's not a very, very complicated, super long product page, right? It's just, hey, order form, reviews, this is how it works, these are the steps, and that's all. It's a $350 product, but this product page still converts so well for them. So really just removing
no advertorial, no crazy setup, crazy bridge pages before that.
It could work. Advertorials still work very well as well. But in general, just specifically for your product page, just simplify a lot of your stuff. It's not about cramming everything. If you wanted to cram everything, that's on a different page, right? You want to do it on an advertorial page where people have a different stage of awareness. Product page, people are ready to buy already. Just let them buy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And what are the elements that a lot of people have on their website and are absolutely unnecessary?
A few elements. So what I hate a lot is some people still run have you seen the giveaway, the spinning the wheel one? Those pop-ups?
I hate it as well. I hate it.
Those don't convert, but some people still like to have it as well. But it really depends, right? So
what about email pop-ups?
They're still okay, but just don't make it. If you make it, let's say 1 minute or after people land on the site, that's still fine. But it's something to split test 1 minute after, or depending on your average customer time on your site or how long they scroll. Those are still fine, but it's something you need to split test. Some of them will hurt, some of them won't have any impact. So those are still fine, I would say. But what I was gonna say is another thing that we've tested hasn't worked that well is, you know how when you go to your collection pages, some people have the option to just add the cart right away from your collection page. We've actually
the quick shop function.
Brands, we've actually seen that hurt performance because people don't really know too much about your product. Then let's say they need to put your cart, then only they look at your product page. It gets a bit confusing. So that's another one. But most CRO things, I would say, it just depends on your brand. To split test them, but a few of them commonly we've seen haven't really performed.
And are you experimenting a lot with pre-sale pages, with advertorials, or that's kind of outside your expertise?
Yeah, pre-sale pages, we are doing a lot more of that right now. My good friend Zakaria, as I mentioned, he mainly only does advertorials, so he's very heavy on that. For us, not as heavy advertorials now, but we do use a lot of listicles. Since almost of the products we sell are pretty straightforward. None of them are really in the health niche. Like if we sell jewelry, I can't really send them to an editorial page, but a
Yeah.
listicle page could do very well for that as well. So that's what we're diving into. Like in this piece of advice, I've mentioned it already because I get DMs every day from people asking me to help, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you really just focused, if you really just stop being jumping from things here and there and really just focus on one thing, you'll get much further. And this is very very simple, common advice you've heard, but a lot of people don't really apply it. Like my friend Zachariah is doing 100K per day with only Facebook ads, nothing else. If you really
Mm-hmm.
just stick to one thing, put all your focus in there, you'll have much higher success in whatever you're doing. And for your ads as well, having higher intent towards them instead of just randomly split testing. These are the common advice I give people that helps them scale up. It's just very simple
Mm-hmm.
but straightforward advice.
And how do you shut off your lizard brain and focus on the task at hand? And how do you like overcome this shiny object syndrome? Because like, let's be honest, there's so much information out there. Everyone's trying to pitch their own service. It's so hard to shut off the brain.
Yeah, great question. This is more of some more self-help productivity stuff. Like for me, example,
Mm.
um, I try not to use social media at all. I'm not on any social media. I'm on Twitter just for business or whatever. Besides that, all I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing 100% of the time is just focusing on my business. I don't really, I don't really have anyone telling me, okay, do this, do that, because I'm pretty much shut off. In fact, I don't really leave the house that much. So I'm just really trying to focus, making sure that I remove things that help me, that don't help me focus, helps a lot. Social media, for example, is a big one. Even communication, right? Um, when I'm doing deep
Mm.
work, I do my deep work. I don't randomly just talk to people in case my thoughts get clouded with random stuff. It's a lot more of these type of things, I would say. Hopefully that helps.
And just as a few final words, what would you say to a brand owner who's doing, 20, 30, 50, even 100K per month, but is still, in kind of in the hamster wheel, still spinning wheels, not being able to scale past a certain number and hit a glass ceiling? What specific advice would you give to that person?
I will just tell you to do a lot of the basics. It's put in more volume, do more research on your customer, execute as fast as possible. Because, okay, what I would say is the beauty of ecom is that you have a guaranteed success rate. And what that means is if you say you were just testing products, right? Going back your step, you were testing a products, let's say you have a 1% success rate and you tested 100 products. Although it's 100 tests, you're guaranteed to succeed. And the beauty of it is each time you test, your winning product rate gets higher. And eventually you'll succeed much faster. But maybe the first one takes you like 100 tries. The same thing for your ads,
Mm.
right? When you first start off, maybe your ads kind of suck. You don't understand your customers well enough. When you do more, you do more research. Eventually, that rate gets higher and higher. Then you have success. But you just need to stick it out because, as I said, eventually, if it's a 1% success rate, you gotta stick it out for 100 times, which sucks. But it's guaranteed if you put in the work. You put in the work to learn. That's what I would say.
Absolutely, man. That really resonates with me. I was in that spot, not being able to grow like 5-10% margin, not knowing how the next month is gonna be. And I can tell you guys, like it's just about trusting the process and making sure that you're reviewing your past mistake, because for me it was very tough to kind of look back on the failed product tests, failed creative tests, and analyze them because it fucking failed. Not because I lost so much money, but because my ego was hurt, right? So, yeah, I mean, overcoming your ego is probably the most important thing, especially for like semi-successful founders already. And you can see, guys, the sky's the limit. This guy's scaling brands to 100K per day. I was dreaming of scaling my brand to 100K per month. So the market is limitless. There's opportunity to almost any niche, and I wouldn't say every product, but like to a lot of products if you have the skills to unveil their potential. So thank you so much, Shaun, for joining me on this interview. It was very interesting for me first in making this interview for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it for you. So please subscribe to the channel, comment whatever questions you might have for Shaun. And also I will drop his social media links as well as the link to his agency for you to check him out if you want to work with him. But nevertheless, thank you so much, Shaun, for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for your time.